Hi everybody, happy Friday. The sun is out, it's looking good here. I hope it's good where you are too. I'm back in my greenhouse to do this live because I can show you what I'm doing with the cuttings. If you've watched my video yesterday where I pre-recorded a little chat about what was hardwood and what was softwood and where on the plant you would cut. I'm following up with it now to show you exactly what I do with it after that. So the plant that I'm doing this on is a hydrangea or hydrangea, and it's one of the easiest ones to do, I think, in my experience. So why do you take cuttings at all? Basically, you're trying to get free plants. That's the long and the short of it. It takes time. It's not an exact science. You have to give yourself permission that some of these are not going to work and let it go. I have a personal theory about this stuff, that if you don't invest too much in it, like if you look up how to take cuttings, it'll tell you to put them in little plastic bags and to mix this in with the soil and to do it a certain time of day. And like, I think the more you invest in something that way, the more disappointed you are when it doesn't work out. And at the end of the day, you're performing surgery on a plant. You're an amateur like I am, and it might work and it mightn't work, and you just have to be prepared for that. And once you're prepared for that, any free plant you get out of it is a bonus. So to counteract the fact that the hit rate mightn't be too high, my solution is, instead of overthinking it and stressing out about all the different things and ins and outs of it, just take loads of them, and surely some of them will survive. So and I can prove that that actually does work. I showed you early on with my lavenders that was working out, and I have a hydrangea cutting here from last year. So this is now brace yourselves. It's not the prettiest thing you ever saw, but this is one I grew from a little cutting last year. So you can see it's still small, so you have to have patience. It's not going to be wowing anybody at the Chelsea Flower Show yet, but it will get there. And yeah, that's it. So it does work. I took loads of them. There's two gone out into the garden. That was a bit of a mistake, because even though it's a decent enough size, but I put them out in the garden. They got battered by the wind, one of them, and it's not going to make it. The other one is flourishing and is looking fine. So like I say, here's my backup plan. So you have to have your backup plans for it. So the moral of the story is, if you don't have the time or the energy or the interest, don't worry about it. You do not need to know how to take cuttings. You just go and buy your €9 hydrangea in Tesco, and like, who cares? But if you want to have a go at it, this is how you do it. The other reason why it can be handy is that what's in the garden centres, if you look around, what's in one garden centre is nearly in them all. I think they must all buy their plants from like a central wholesalers in Holland or whatever, and it's hard to get unusual plants now. When you go into the garden centre in Galway, it's going to be sort of similar to what's going to be available in a garden centre in Wales. It's much of a muchness. There are specialist plant companies here and there, and local nurseries that do more unusual stuff, but they're not what's the handiest place to go to for everybody. So it is hard to get more unusual plants. And one thing about cuttings is that you can spot something in somebody else's garden and ask them if you can take a cutting of it. Take a few of them, take your few cuttings of it, and get something that's a bit different and be delighted with yourself. So anyway, I'll shut up talking about it now and show you how to do it. So I'm putting you down here now. My high-tech system is back in business. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see me. Yeah, you can. Okay, great. So I've two. So I'm going to do a mixture between doing it by the book kind of way and doing it just chance your arm kind of way, because my theory is that you have as much chance either way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little pot of compost here and prepare that first. Right. If you were to listen to the rules, they'll tell you that you should mix your compost with some what they call horticultural grit, which is basically tiny gravel, or perlite, or some of these things. Perlite is basically lightweight tiny gravel. I'll show you here. So that's all it is. The for either one of them, the purpose of them is to space out the bits of compost to make sure that the water drains away and that the little baby roots that are trying to grow aren't getting waterlogged before they start. So it doesn't matter which of them you use. If you even had sand, that would help as well. And you know what? If you didn't have it, I don't think it really makes a huge odds. So I'll just mix this stuff in. Probably do it a bit more, so I'll throw a bit of horticultural grit in too. I think for cuttings, if you're to do it by the book, they'll tell you that the perlite or some of these lighter weight materials are better because the little baby roots aren't trying to push through something as heavy as this gravel. But look at now, you know, I don't know, do they just kind of make it more complicated than it needs to be, I think, sometimes. So that's one of them. I'll put in a bit more because it always sinks down. That's actually something, if you're ever filling a pot full of compost, no matter how full you think it is, it won't be half as full by the time you water it. So this one, I'm just putting plain compost in. So I have one, that's one, I'll even put a bit more of this in. So I have one with the grit and one without the grit, okay? But it's the same compost, and that compost is just ordinary compost from Aldi, multi-purpose compost. You can get special cutting compost and stuff, but look at my life's way too short for that stuff, so that's I just get the multi-purpose stuff and use it for everything. So then I have my two little cuttings here. So as you can see, they're all taken on the green softwood part of the hydrangea. At this time of year, that's what you're doing. At other times of the year, there's other things you do, but for now what we're doing is the green one. I had a little drawing up earlier on as well to show you exactly what I'm talking about where you make the cuts. So I already took this cutting below a leaf node. But I don't think it's tidy enough, so I'm going to do another one here. Generally speaking, they tell you to take them at a little bit of an angle. I'm not really sure what that's about, to be honest with you, but I do it anyway, because, like, sure, it doesn't cost me anything to do it that way. Then use a knife, because it's more likely to come off clean. So at this stage now, what you're trying to do is get clean cuts. So it's like, you know, when a surgeon is performing surgery on a patient, you're trying to reduce the opportunities for infections to develop or for any kind of bacteria to get in and mess it all up in you. So any cut you're trying to do it with something that's very clean. So I cleaned my secateurs, and I have a clean knife, and it's sharp so that you're not going to have a drag of a cut. So I'll take a little bit, take off these bottom leaves. That's on my little picture as well. You take out the growing tip. So I'll just pinch that out because it's so small. You could cut it out of the secateurs if you wanted. And you take off these leaves as well. So the reason why you're taking off so much foliage, which I know can feel a bit brutal and possibly not, you know, what your mind might be telling you to do, is because the plant, the plant normally, if it was still remaining on the stem, what to be trying to do is make flowers or more leaves up here at the top. But you're trying to convince it, no, don't mind about that now, plant. Please, will you grow some roots? Which is not what it was supposed to be doing at all. So to convince it to do that, you have to give it less leaves to try and sustain. So that's what we're in the process of doing here. Now, this is where I'm going to, so this is going to be my doing everything right little mixture here. What they'll tell you to do is to use some of this rooting powder or rooting gel. What does it do? I don't really know. There's hormones in it that promote growth for roots, but I don't know if it works, to be honest. Sometimes I forget to use it and they still work. So what I'm going to do here then, this is another thing that if you do it by the book you're told to do, is to just gently score the stem here. Not the whole way around, just a little bit here and there. So you're just paring off the barest film of the stem as neatly as you can and as cleanly as you can. And that's just to further promote the idea to the plant that you want it to set down roots. And then you dip it in your rooting powder, tap off the excess, make a little hole in your compost mixture. This is my mixture one. So don't try and squish it down with the stem of the plant. Make the hole for the plant, because it ends up with a whole pile of compost down at the base of it if you do it that way. This way it's looser that's around it. So if there are little baby roots, it's making it easier for them to pop out. So you put it down there, and then you have to really firm in the compost around it, and then water it and wait. If you listen to the the expert way of doing this, they'll tell you to put a polythene bag over it and to kind of keep it in its own little mini greenhouse, for want of a better word. I never bother doing that with hydrangeas. It might, you know, I'm sure it does help the hit rate with them, but that can go wrong, because if you've tried, first of all, you'll have to try and find a bag that's big enough to fit over it. Then the leaves aren't supposed to touch the bag, so you're stressing trying to stop that happening. But one thing I am going to do on this, right, these leaves are fairly ginormous, so I'm going to cut these leaves so that the leaf is actually a little bit smaller. It's just less leaf area for the plant to try and sustain while you're trying to convince it to grow these roots. Now I'm going to give it a good old soaking. From now on though, what I'm trying to do is keep it damp, but not sodden like that. I'll give it one good soaking now to get it going. And that can stay outside. Like that one, I forgot about. It was actually out the back of the shed. It's been at the back of the shed since around this time last year. Look, it sorely needs to be potted on. Some insect has been eating it. But I'm going to give it a lot of TLC now, and hopefully it can be my prize pupil. So that's the first one done. And now I'm going to do the other one. And it's the exact same process I'm going to do on this one, except for I'm going to give it a lot less of the fancy treatment. So as you can see on this one, I did cut it below. There's a leaf node, so a leaf node is where the two leaves join the stem. So I have already cut it below a leaf node, but I just still think that it'll be too big. So I'm going to cut it below this leaf node here. I kind of do it diagonal. I don't know if that matters. You have to do the same thing of taking off the leaves. That's not fancy. That's basics of it. It won't work with that, you know, with a whole load of leaves on it. I'm going to take off these leaves as well. So I'm doing them really nice and clean. Because you do still, no matter what way you do it, you have to be mindful of the fact that it was prone to infection. And take off this growing tip. And as you can see, I took ones that didn't have flowers on them. For the same kind of principle with the leaves. If it has a flower, the plant is programmed to try and make the flower bloom instead of creating a root. So you're making it climb an uphill battle. I'm going to do the same thing, trim these leaves because they're just a bit huge for, I think. And probably could have got away without doing that. Make a little hole in the compost, the same thing. Pop it down. And water it. And then like that's been out in winter, they've been out in the snow, they've been out in the frost, like not out in the middle of the lawn, you know, out somewhere with a bit of shelter, so the side of a shed or somewhere where there's a wall up against them. Keep an eye that they're watered during the dry area, especially this time of year now. If we actually are getting a summer like it looks like we might be, you definitely need to keep an eye on the water levels. And then after that, all it is a waiting game. And fingers crossed it will work, or at least one of them will work. If I was doing this for real, like I actually have quite a few hydrangeas, so I'm not that worried about these working, but they're a lovely little present to give to somebody. So if I was doing this for real and I really wanted to grow my own hydrangea plant, I'd do 4 or 5 anyway, definitely. So I would recommend that you guys do that. And then it's wait, right? So you might have a little plant to plant next year, but probably realistically you're talking about 2 years before you'll have one that's a decent size. And here, a friend of mine gave me one during the week. They saw that one of mine didn't work out so well, so they gave me one. So kind. And look. It's a gorgeous white one. So it's beautiful. So I'm thrilled. And I'm going to plant that now out in the garden with the other ones. So my other ones are pink, I think. So there's going to be a nice little mixture. So a couple of years down the line, that's what you have. Apologies for all this swinging around with the cameras now. I didn't think that fully through, but every day is a school day. This week I also took cuttings of my rosemary plants because I was inspired by the lovely photos of the lavender and rosemary hedges. So I have rosemary looks very like lavender when it's like this. So ooh, that's a bit wet, Rebecca. Yeah, they're there as well. So fingers crossed between it all, I'll have something. So these hydrangeas are going outside. Anyone can do this. It's easy. And best of luck. I'd love if you showed me your pictures if you do it. I really would love to see that some of them work, and that my theory that you don't have to totally babysit them works. So have a great weekend, everyone. I hope you're all getting a bit of sunshine. I love it. It's bringing out the flowers at long last. Even my allium might even come out now. And talk to you soon. Take care. Bye bye.